Hi Greg, thanks for the footage. In relation to the details you've sent me, and looking at your ball flight, hanging it out a little bit to the right with your irons and then having a lot of problems hanging it out way right with your driver. My main concerns are with your setup. If we look at you first of all from down the target line, what we're seeing here is quite an unathletic setup. What I mean by that is you're sort of quite rounded in your back and you haven't got a lot of flex in the knees. If we compare that setup to what we're seeing here with Stuart Appleby, we're a little bit straighter in the back and we've certainly got more flex in the knees, a much more athletic or much more dynamic looking setup position. To illustrate that in another way, if we just get rid of those lines, if we put a line up from your main balance point, which is the balls of your feet, vertically through your body, you can see that you've got much more of you behind that line than you have in front of that line, which suggests you stood a little bit too close to it, pushing the weight onto your heels. If we do the same line up from Stuart Appleby's feet, so from the balls of the feet up through the body, you can see there that it's a much more balanced looking setup position. So what we need to do, Greg, is get you stood further away from it with a little bit more knee flex. Give yourself a little bit of room between your arms or your hands and your thighs. Give yourself a little bit of room. Feel that the weight is on the balls of your feet, almost in anticipation of someone coming pushing you in the chest. You need to be stood in a position that if you were pushed in the chest, you wouldn't fall back on your heels. At the moment, if I was to nudge you in the chest, stood as you are there on the top left, you'd rock back on your heels. So we need a much more solid, athletic posture. The effects this has on your golf swing is that in the takeaway, the hands tend to move, or the club tends to move away from you in the first couple of feet. So as your swing begins, you're going to see the golf club start to move away from you, because you're going to go looking for the room that you should have had at address. So the first move away, there the club goes a little bit outside the line. You can see that in the first frame or two. Club's gone away, so there's the arms moving away, creating a little bit more room for yourself. And then as you come into impact, you're going to see that you rock back on your heels a little bit. As you do that, you come out of your body angles, your spine angle increases, and the hands work across your body very quickly. Whenever your hands work across your body very quickly, depending on what you do with the club face, if you leave the club face open a little bit, which is your tendency, you're going to hang it out to the right, or you're going to pull hook it to the left. If you've got a lofty club in your hand, I'd expect you to pull it into the left hand side of the green. So we need to be a little bit more athletic at setup when we're looking down the line. That's going to result in a more online takeaway and allowing you to extend down the target line a little bit more in the through swing. If we look at you from face on, the main concern here is that the shoulders at setup are very level for someone who's hitting a driver. I'd also consider teeing the ball up a little bit higher. However, having said that, you're on the range, so that might not be the way you normally tee it up. So consider it. Bearing that in mind, I'm going to talk a little bit more about your shoulder angle. We can see here with Stuart Appleby, because the right hand's below the left, the right shoulder is also considerably below the left at setup. So we're looking for a higher left side. What that's going to do is that's going to allow you to get the club working back a little bit more on the inside, create a much better turn through it. But more importantly, if we have a little look at what happens through the hitting area, someone like Stuart Appleby's created a good move back, move behind the ball nicely, and as he comes into impact, you can see that the shoulder angle is very similar to what we were seeing at the address position. If we take a look at your shoulders, again, take away a nice move back, get behind the ball nicely, but watch what happens now. Because the shoulders were level at impact, which is not an appropriate position from which to hit the golf ball, as we come into impact, the left shoulder starts to climb, the right shoulder starts to drop, and there's a huge difference between the shoulder angle at setup and the shoulder angle as you approach impact. The body is very good at finding a position from which it's appropriate to hit the golf ball. So if you set up incorrectly, you'll always compensate during the downswing. That's your athletic ability kicking in. What I would suggest is work predominantly on your setup for now. Once you've worked on the setup for a couple of weeks, take advantage of your second lesson, forward with some footage, down the line, face on, and we'll have a little bit more of a look into your golf swing. You were talking in your email about ideas for squaring the club face up. If you improve your posture and you improve your balance, your club face will start to square itself up more consistently on its own. So you shouldn't need to think too much about what you're doing through the hitting area. If you do need anything more in the meantime, feel free to drop me an email. Otherwise, good luck and keep in touch. I look forward to seeing your next lot of footage.